My old friend Brother Z is from Taizhou, Jiangsu. This is the strange experience he collected and shared. It happened to a colleague in his company. His company is a trading company that integrates production and sales. It's not very large with about 30 to 40 employees. However, the company has a research and development department, a marketing department, a production department, a finance department, and a warehousing department. The strange incident happened to a colleague in the warehousing department named Deng. Deng is a really nice guy. He's 52 years old this year and still single. When Deng was young, his parents passed away. He was the eldest brother in the family, with several younger siblings who were much younger than him. By the time he became an adult, his younger siblings were still children, some just starting school and some not even in school yet. As the eldest brother, he had to take care of his younger siblings, which delayed his own personal life. When he was young, his family was poor, and with so many children to support, he had to work hard. His job didn't pay much. Although some people had introduced potential partners to him, they all backed out when they saw his family's situation. Over time, he missed his chance. As he got older, his siblings were all doing well and respected him deeply. But it was too late to find a partner. He thought, if my siblings are happy, that's enough for me. Being single is fine too. One of his siblings, who graduated from a military academy and served in the People's Liberation Army, used his connections to find a job at Z's company. The company happened to need a warehouse manager. So the sibling said, "I'd like my brother to work here as a warehouse manager. He's older and not in the best health. Please take good care of him." The company leaders respected Deng's sibling and said, "Don't worry, it's no problem." Compared to his previous jobs, which involved a lot of hard work and exposure to the elements, this job was much more stable and paid better. Deng thought he could work for a few more years and then retire with a pension. Deng's job as a warehouse manager was actually quite simple. His main responsibilities were to check goods as they were stored and to organize and report any returns or defective items. But Deng didn't want to just coast along. He was very dedicated and hardworking. After working there for a while, his colleagues discovered that Deng was no ordinary person. Their company's warehouse had thousands of types of goods and over 100 shelves. It takes a very meticulous person to remember all these categories. Deng was that kind of person. Although his job didn't require heavy physical labor, he knew every detail about the warehouse's inventory. He could tell you where the kind of goods were stored and when they were received. He was like a living dictionary for the company's warehouse. Since he didn't have a lot of tasks to do whenever other departments needed help with something, he would eagerly lend a hand. Everyone in the company liked him. He was also very frugal. His sibling had rented him a place to live, saying it's closer to the company. But Deng said, "I don't need. The company provides a dormitory right here in the warehouse. I can live there and cook my own meals." Living in the warehouse had its advantages. If colleagues needed something after work or before starting their shift, or if there was an urgent matter from a client, they could just knock on the gate and Deng would take care of it. Brother Z worked in the marketing department, so he often dealt with Deng. He really liked Deng and said that there were very few people as honest and kind-hearted as him in the world. But last month in May, something very strange happened to Deng. During the May Day holiday, the company was mostly closed, but the marketing department received an urgent task. They needed to deliver a batch of goods to a client immediately during the holiday. At the same time, they had to bring back a batch of returned goods from the client. Since it was a holiday, many colleagues were off and the company was virtually deserted. The only person on duty at the warehouse was Deng. The client was urgently pressing for the delivery, and the marketing department was short-handed. They needed 3 people to handle the job. In the end, Ren and Hu from the marketing department rushed back. Ding said, "You guys are short-handed. Let me help you. You two can't handle all this stuff by yourselves. Let's do it together." So the 3 of them drove Iveco on. After taking inventory and loading the goods properly onto the vehicle, they set off. The client was not close, by over 100 kilometers away. They departed at around 4 in the afternoon. The roads during the May Day holiday were congested. The GPS showed that the highway was completely gridlocked. Later, they took the national highway, then switched to a provincial road, and finally turned onto a rural road. The route they found was not bad, although there was some traffic. It was much better than being stuck on the main road. After delivering the goods and picking up the batch of returns from the client, it was already after 10 o'clock at night when they headed back. As they were driving, they suddenly saw flashing police lights ahead. It turned out there was a traffic control. The highway was blocked, and the congestion extended from the ramp all the way to the provincial road. Ren, who was driving, had no choice but to follow the traffic police's guidance and turn onto a small road in an industrial park. The road was only about 4 to 5 meters wide. According to the navigation, they would be able to turn onto the national highway or driving about 5 kilometers along this small road. However, the road was in very poor condition with potholes and uneven surfaces. They followed the car in front of them cautiously, as there were no street lights and the surroundings were pitch black. After driving for about half an hour, they still hadn't seen any sign of the national highway. The road became darker and more desolate. On both sides of the road, there were rows of trees, and no houses or lights were visible. Hu, who was in the passenger seat, asked Ren, "Did we take a wrong turn? It should only take 5 kilometers to reach the national highway, but we've been driving for half an hour. Where are we going?" Ren replied, "That's not possible. I've been following the car in front of us and the GPS. Look, we've been following the GPS all along. Where did the car in front of us go? Oh, it's gone." All 3 of them were puzzled. They had indeed been following the car in front of them, but when they realized something was wrong, they were the only car on this desolate road. Ding tried to reassure Ren, "Don't worry, just keep driving forward. The road is bad, so we're driving slowly. Just be careful and keep going." The speed of the vehicle slowed down significantly. They continued to follow the navigation for another half an hour, when suddenly Ren slammed on the brakes, startling the other 2 in the car. "What's wrong? What happened?" they asked. Ren said, "There's been a car accident. There's a car flipped over there." As he was driving, he saw through the headlights that a car had flipped over by the side of the road. The car had crashed into a tree. Ren didn't dare to drive forward and quickly stopped the car. He backed up a bit so that the headlights could illuminate the accident scene. The 3 of them got out of the car to check. Sure enough, there was a very old-fashioned black Volkswagen Santana flipped over by the roadside. The hood was billowing white smoke. They bent down to look through the broken windows, but saw no driver or passengers. The car was empty, but the interior was in disarray with broken glass scattered everywhere, both inside the car and on the roadside. It seemed the accident had just happened. Ding shouted, "Is anyone there? Is there anyone?" It was strange. The car was flipped over and the hood was smoking, but there was no one around. Hu said, "Where is the driver? Are there any passengers?" The 3 of them were still very concerned. They took out their cell phones and turned on the flashlights. They shouted and searched around the car, but found no one. They thought maybe the people involved in the accident had already been taken away. Hu shouted, "Is anyone there?" Just as he was shouting, someone from the second floor across the street shouted back, Stop shouting. They've all been taken away. They looked up and saw a small two-story building by the roadside. A person was leaning out of a window on the second floor, waving at them. Stop shouting. They've all been taken away. They were taken away just a moment ago, right after you passed by. Deng felt strange when he heard that. As he bent down to inspect the flipped car, he caught a strong smell of alcohol. He thought to himself, could this be a drunk driving accident? Maybe the driver was afraid of being caught by the police and had someone else take him away. Should we call the police? At that moment, Deng took out his phone to call the police. Ren thought it would be better to avoid trouble and said, Uncle Deng, don't do it. Who was eager to get home, also chimed in. There are no injured people at the scene. Let's just leave quickly. He knew Deng was kind-hearted and always willing to help. But he added, let's go first. The guy said, they were taken away, so probably nothing serious happened. It's none of our business. Better to avoid trouble. It's late. Let's go back and rest. Deng thought it over and agreed. The three of them got back in the car and continued driving. However, Deng still felt uneasy and decided to call 110 after all. The signal in that area was poor and the call was intermittent. He finally managed to explain the location and situation to the police. After the call ended, the three of them returned to the company. It was already past midnight. They were exhausted after the long day. Since the returned goods hadn't been unloaded yet, Deng was about to open the warehouse gate when he realized, where are my keys? He searched his pockets and his entire body, but couldn't find the keys. The keys to the warehouse and his dormitory were both missing. He searched the car inside and out, but still couldn't find them. Eventually, they had no choice but to lock the outer gate. Deng stayed in Hu's home for the night. Ren took a taxi home. The next morning around 10 o'clock, Hu and Deng went to the warehouse. The company's vice president was also there. Deng asked the vice president for the spare key and managed to open the warehouse gate. They were busy unloading the goods when Deng's phone rang. It was the police. They asked if he was the one who had called last night. Deng recounted the car accident. He had seen to the police again. After he finished speaking, Hu asked Deng, what's going on? Deng replied, the police called me, asking if I was the one who reported the alarm. It's strange. They said they went to the scene, but found no traces of the car accident, and they haven't received any other reports about a car accident since last night. The police officer on the phone just now told me to think carefully. He also warned me that false alarms are against the law. So I told the police again that I should have the time and place right. It was around 10 plus last night on the provincial road heading to the national highway. We took that small road in the industrial park. We drove for about 40 minutes. There were trees along the roadside and there was a small house nearby. Hu said, yes, that's the place. Deng said, but they said there was nothing there, no trace at all. The two of them talked, and the fact that there was no trace seemed very strange. Hu said, last night when we came back on this road, I felt something was off. We drove on this small road for over an hour. Is it really that long? I checked the GPS later, and that section of the road wasn't long at all. Why did it take us so long to drive? And that strange car accident. Don't you think that small building across the street was very strange? How could there be a lonely two-story building there? Deng said, the police said there was no car accident at the scene. The conversation couldn't go on. Both of them felt a bit panicked. The three of them had seen it with their own eyes. A black Santana flipped over on the roadside, smoking. They had all seen it. There was even a witness across the street in the small building, who told them that everyone had been taken away. Did the police not go up and ask about this situation? So Deng immediately called the number again. After the call was connected, Deng said to the police on the other end. "Comrade police officer, we did encounter a car accident yesterday. It wasn't just me. My two colleagues were there too. I just asked again about the time and place, and I'm sure I'm right. And I didn't tell you before, but there was a small two-story building across the street. I don't know if you saw it when you went to the scene. You should go and ask. There are residents in that building. Yesterday, he told us. They were all taken away. No one was injured in this car accident. That's what he said. Did you go and ask him?" There was a moment of silence on the other end, and then the police officer said, "Let me tell you, as soon as we received the alarm call last night, we carefully searched the area you described, but we found no evidence of any car accident, and we didn't find any witnesses at the scene either. If it's convenient for you, could you come to our station? Come to the police station and take us to the scene. I don't know if you're available at this time." Deng replied, "No problem, you can count on me. I'm not making a false alarm." With that, he and Hu got in the car and drove to the police station. When they arrived at the police station, Deng and Hu found the officer who had taken the call. The four of them, including the two policemen, got into a police car and headed towards the accident site from the previous night. On the way, Deng was extremely attentive, looking out the window and scrutinizing every detail, for fear of missing anything. They arrived at the small road where the accident had supposedly happened. The police car drove slowly and Deng and Hu looked very carefully. However, as the police car drove along, they couldn't find any broken trees. "Hey, that's not right. We've gone past it. Officer, we've gone past it." The two men quickly told the driving officer, "We saw the accident by the roadside where a tree was damaged. We've reached the industrial area. We've gone too far. Turn around." The police car changed direction and prepared to retrace their steps from the previous night. But the officer repeatedly confirmed with them, saying, "We didn't drive fast just now. We've been looking all the time. Where is the broken tree?" Deng said, "There definitely was one. We just didn't notice it. Turn around." The two men said, "Officer, there was a two-story building opposite the accident site last night. A witness told us that the people involved had been taken away. So let's keep an eye out for it. There must be a two-story building." The officer said, "All right, keep an eye out," and drove slowly. The three men looked carefully to the left and right. As they drove, Deng suddenly shouted, "Stop the car. Look at the long skid marks on the ground. This is the place." The car stopped abruptly. There was no two-story building around nor any broken trees, but there were two long skid marks on the road. The car stopped there and Deng and Hu were both stunned. At that moment, the police officer who had called them said, "Tell me what exactly is going on here. You need to know that making false alarms is a waste of public resources. You said there was a car accident here, with broken trees, a two-story building, and witnesses. Where are they?" As he was speaking, Deng suddenly opened the car gate and got out, startling the officer and Hu. Deng ran to the roadside and came back in a moment, holding a set of keys, as if he had been saved from a great calamity. "Officer, this is the place. It definitely is. We must have gotten out of the car here last night. Look, my colleague and I lost our keys last night, and they must have been lost right here." With that, everyone got out of the car and went to the roadside to inspect the tree trunk. It was strange. Deng and Hu, along with Ren, had clearly seen the car crash into the tree by the roadside, breaking it and flipping into the ditch. But there was no such thing. There was no two-story building across, nor any broken trees. However, there was a grave by the roadside. The four men quickly ran over to look. About 5 to 6 meters from the roadside, there was a grave made of cement. The words on the grave were clearly visible. The two police officers didn't pay much attention to Deng. who was stunned. When Hu recounted the story to Z, he said, "My mind went completely blank at that moment. I couldn't remember anything the police told us afterward. It all went in one ear and out the other. I don't remember how we got back to the police station, how the company leaders were notified, or how they came back. But the police officers didn't say much, just emphasized that this kind of thing shouldn't happen again. Making false alarms is considered a waste of public resources." After Hu got back, he told the story to Ren, the driver from that day. Within a few days, Ren resigned. Hu was sick at home for over a week, and fortunately, on the night when Ren had resigned and Hu was still at home sick, the company's warehouse suddenly caught fire. When the fire department arrived, the flames were raging. Although the firefighters did their best to extinguish the fire, it was eventually put out. But Deng perished in the blaze. The cause of the fire remains unknown to this day. It was only after hearing Hu's account that Z learned about this strange incident. As Z was organizing these notes, a chill ran down his spine with every word he wrote, thinking about Deng, such a good person who had suffered all his life. The mysterious car accident and the inexplicable fire. It was all very lamentable.